I'm Ian Reynolds.
And I am Jake Myers.
And this is Fun Time with Ian and Jake.
Today's story will be about how common events were blown out of proportion in the Crucible.
The setting of the Crucible was written in the time of the Salem witch trials. During the trials, more than 300 people were arrested on accusations of witchcraft and wizardry.
Many of the people arrested were accused on minor charges that were considered major at the time, that today would cause no suspicion, but in this time they were considered hard evidence. For example, a man named John Proctor was accused on conspiring with the devil. The only evidence they had against him was that he plowed on 2 Sundays, which was the Sabbath day, the day of rest.
John plowed on some Sundays because he did not like Reverend Parris. He felt that Parris was only preaching for his benefit and that he only was in it for the money. An example of this is when, as soon as Reverend Parris came to Salem, he changed the old metal candlesticks to gold, because the metal ones weren't to his, quote, standards.
Another example of Parris being greedy was in Act 1 when Reverend Parris was complaining about his wages. He said, "The salary is 66 pounds, Mr. Proctor. I am not some preaching farmer with a Bible under his arm. I am a graduate of Harvard University."
I find myself to think that it is not any sort of good evidence, let alone hard evidence, in today's society. But today's society isn't anything like Salem, Massachusetts in 1692.
I agree, Ian. Salem was a very reserved and strict society that frowned upon many things we consider common today.
That leads us to our next point. Another example of wild accusations that were said to be hard evidence was the evidence used to bring Elizabeth Proctor to court. It was suspicion of owning a puppet that was thought to have been used in a voodoo attack on Abigail Williams.
In Act 2 of the Crucible, Cheever came to the Proctor residence with a warrant for Elizabeth's arrest. She was arrested even though Mary Warren claimed for the puppet to be hers.
Once Elizabeth was tried, the judge ruled that she was guilty, and because she still denied that she committed the crime, the judge made for her to be hung.
If it wasn't for Elizabeth being pregnant, she would have been killed on this crazy accusation made. This is a prime example of how the court system's used to think in the mindset of guilty until proven innocent.
The accusers in this situation abused this old style by accusing anyone they wanted to, and unless you could pin your crime on another person, you would either confess to your artificial sin or sentenced to be hung. That is the opposite of today's court system. Someone being accused is innocent until proven guilty. This makes the accuser to have actual proof that shows how and why the accused committed the crime.
Our new system isn't perfect by any means, but I find the innocent until proven guilty mindset much more beneficial to find the truth.
I agree, Jake. Lastly, one of the reasons the accusers were even being questioned was because this group of girls were saw dancing in the woods. At this time, that was seen as a strange activity that no one does.
Such an activity today would cause nothing more than a strange glare and then moving on with your day. But Salem's Puritan societies were much more strict than today's societies.
That's true, Jake. Puritan societies weren't even allowed to have impure thoughts, and even for a group of girls to be dancing in the woods was enough for those girls to be looked at as corrupt sinners in the eyes of the people of Salem.
All of these common acts today were worthy of being shunned and even hung in the eyes of the people in Salem.
This is all the time we have today. I'm Ian Reynolds.
And I'm Jake Myers, and a special thank you today for our music producer, Justin Crouch.
And this was Fun Time with Ian and Jake.